The Wacky Rig, the Neko Rig, the Ned Rig, Shaky Head? What? What does all this even mean? Let's talk about it. What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Or hey, it's your first time here and you're looking for some tips, tricks, reviews, how-tos, the occasional unboxing, and lots of bass fishing. Hey, you've come to the right spot. Welcome to the Fishing with Gramps community right here on YouTube. This is video number 2 in our soft plastic series for brand new anglers. Our step-by-step guide on how to get started in bass fishing. Now, if you're brand new to the channel and you haven't seen any of the other videos on how to get started with bass fishing, I'll link a playlist right up here. So now you may hear names like Wacky Rig, Ned Rig, Neko Rig, Shaky Head. You see your favorite YouTubers out there fishing different baits and whatnot, and you hear people talking about them, but oftentimes they don't really talk about what it is they're doing. They're just out fishing. So this video is for brand new bass anglers who are just trying to learn the various different techniques for catching bass. In video number 1, we talked about the Texas rig, weightless Texas rig, the traditional Texas rig, and the pegged Texas rig. Great techniques for throwing those bandito bugs or rage craws or mondo worms, your favorite swim baits, things like that. Stuff you cast and slowly retrieve and pop along the bottom, or cast and reel back to you at a little faster pace, looking to entice a bite. This video is for when that bite's a little tougher. The fishing is a little slower. You might be trying to fish after a cold front and the fish just don't really want to seem to bite. So we're going to slow our technique down a little bit and show them something a little different. First, we're going to start with the Wacky Rig. And that generally starts with some kind of a stick bait, like those from Big Bite Baits, the Yum Dinger, the Guggen Baits Lunker Log, or the most famous of them all, the Gary Yamamoto Senko. By far the most popular stick bait ever invented. It's literally just a big old bait that looks like a stick. But when it falls in the water like this, both ends will shake as it falls down. Now the amount of salt and the plastics used in creating each of the different baits, well, that determines how fast or slow it falls when it's in the water. Now the Gary Yamamoto Senkos, they're soft, they're full of salt, but they fall very slow, but they're not very durable either. You might only catch a fish or two on each one, but it could be your personal best. Now where did the name Wacky Rig come from? Well, fishing lore goes to people brand new to bass fishing were at some reservoir in Texas, went into the local tackle shop, and was talking to the guy behind the counter. And he sold them a couple of bags of Yamamoto Senkos and said, take these out, put these on the hook, and catch some fish. So when they came back later in the day and had caught a bunch of huge bass, he's like, what did you guys catch those on? And they said, well, just what you told us to catch them on. These worms. And he looked at him and saw that the hook was in the middle of the worm and was like, that's wacky. Now, is that real or not? I don't know, but that's what fishing lore says. So, let's get around and talk about these different finesse techniques and how they could catch you, possibly, your biggest bass. Alright, so let's talk about the Wacky Rig. Here's a good old used Strike King KBD Ocho. I've been catching a bunch of fish on that I got out of a monster bass bag. Talk about a couple of different hooks. Little bitty hook like this you can find in any Walmart or sporting goods store. They also make weedless versions if you have a lot of grass or other things to get hung up on. For beginners, these little ones will work just fine. They'll catch bass all day long. At its simplest, you can just hook the bait through the middle like that and cast it out. And all you want to do is let it go down, slowly sink to the bottom, and it'll do one of these numbers as it's falling, nice and slow. And then just pick it up and let it fall back down again. And bass will hit this all day long. Now, if you want to get a little fancier and save your stick baits and have them last longer after catching fish, you can get one of these little gizmos at any of your sporting goods store. And it just puts a little O-ring on there. So you can take it, run this out to where you want the O-ring, slide the O-ring onto it like that. Then just take your hook, run it between the O-ring and the stick bait, back up the O-ring, and now whenever you catch a fish, your O-ring will protect your bait and you get more use out of it. Now again, this green pumpkin works good in clear water. I like black and blue in stained water or muddy water. If you're just going to get 2 colors to start out with, those would be the ones that you go with. Now if you want to change it up a little bit, you can take and make a Neko Rig by simply taking a nail and putting it in the head. Oh, that's my fishing line. Putting it in the head of the bait like that, and what that will do is that'll have your bait, as it's falling, it will be nose heavy, so it'll fall like this. Pick it up and then let it sink like this. So you can pop that, and you can actually dance this along the bottom, and there's just enough weight in that nail. And they make actual Neko Rig weights. I don't really see a need for it. You can take a little nail like this, you know, stick it in there. You can take little bitty screws if you got some laying around. Just something to put a little weight in the front that will nosedive this bait. Now that being said, you can also take a finesse worm like this and put a little nail in it. Put your O-ring and your hook in the middle, or just hook it through the middle up here somewhere. And that's another finesse Neko presentation. So this is a little finesse worm. And you'll see it's a little different build than the stick bait. But same idea. This is just a little flimsier, a little looser. Flaps a little more in the water. But you can actually wacky rig that, or you can Neko rig it by putting a little weight here and using this as a tiny finesse bait. A guy in my kayak club caught this 5-pound bass on a finesse worm that was green pumpkin in 40-some degree water. I had come under that bridge. I was fishing a little bit faster, throwing a stick bait on a Texas rig, and it was just something a little bit faster than the fish wanted. He came in with his Neko Rig and caught a 5-pound bass. Just fishing that much slower got him a bigger fish. The only difference between a Wacky Rig and the Neko Rig, it's just a little weight in the front to give it a little bit different presentation. But you can use either one of these kind of worms to fish that way. Now let's talk about this little goofy thing. This is called a Ned Rig. It's just, as you can see, 3 or 4 inches of a stick bait with a little jig head like this at the front and an open and exposed hook. And this thing has caught so many big bass in professional bass tournaments over the last few years, and I truly don't understand why. I literally heard somebody say that bass eat these because they think it's a duck turd. Yeah, I don't know. I had never caught a Ned Rig bass, so I tried it last summer and caught this fish. See if we can do the old drop it down next to the log and catch one. Oh, are you kidding me? I did. I actually did. Looky there. Talk about calling your shots. There it is. My first Ned Rig bass. That is crazy. Looky there, looky there. My first Ned Rig bass. Fat little pounder. Now that's not bad. But look at this monster 6-pounder that my cousin caught a couple of weeks ago. He was just killing time at the boat ramp, waiting for it to clear, and was throwing the Ned around the rocks, just waiting for the trucks and boats to get out of the way so he can load up and head home. And he caught that fish. Now, they also make weedless Ned heads, as you can see, in case you need something a little more, to protect your open hook, because I tend to get these things stuck on everything. Now Z-Man actually has an extra wide gap Ned head that looks like this, that I'm definitely going to need to get my hands on, because I like the fact that those are a little more weedless. I seem to like to get hung up anytime I throw this thing around anything that's not open water. Yeah, this is what they call the Ned Rig. Now one of the cool things, always keep your Senkos, because when you're done, You just cut them in half and you've got more Ned Rig baits. So this particular one is a Guggen Squad Rattling Ned. This one here is a Ticklers from Z-Man. And this is the one I actually caught that bass on at Monroe. And recently I was fishing these Strike King KBD Ned Ochos because this one is black and blue, and I happened to get this in my monster bass bag, and it was actually perfect. Caught some fish on this. Now, since the Ned has got so popular over the last few years, bait companies are making a ton of different baits that they're calling Ned baits, like little crawls, little bugs that look like Hellgramites, things like that. But this itself is the basic Ned. And then last but not least, we have another technique called the Shaky Head. This one came out several years ago. I think it was Aaron Martins who came up with the Shaky Head. It's just a little round ball head. He was trying to drag football heads through different rocks and whatnot, but they kept getting stuck. So he came up with the idea of just having a little round ball head. And what he did was he would take a finesse worm and more or less Texas rig it onto a head like this. This bait underwater would go down and hit the bottom with this tail kind of floating up, and then you just shake the bait with your line and set this tail a fluttering, and the bass would come and grab it. And it would just, you know, you maintain bottom contact, but as you do this. Now, if you use like the finesse worms from Z-Man that are made from the Elastec, well, those are, I can't call them floating, but they're neutral buoyancy. So in other words, they actually stand up and dance around in the water a little bit more. But this is literally what they call a shaky head, because you let it go down to the bottom. You just sit there and twitch your rod and let this back end dance. Bass will see it, ooh, yummy, yummy, and come and hit it. But that's the shaky head. So again, this is just a finesse worm. And again, slow days, post cold front, you're just not getting bit by anything. You know, your spinner bait's not working, your chatter bait's not working, you're throwing out worms, they're not working. These baits right here are baits that you throw when things are very slow. You just slow down. If you think you're fishing slow enough, slow down more. And there we have it, the Ned Rig, the Wacky Rig, the Neko Rig, and the Shaky Head. Give them a shot and let me know how you do down in the comments below. Or if you're on Instagram, hey, be sure to upload your pictures and tag old Fishing with Gramps. Let me see what you caught. If you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Like and share. It helps YouTube promote it to other people who might be looking for videos like this. Until next time, get outside if you can. Grab a buddy and go fishing. Make a memory. One cast at a time.